Hello and welcome back. Thanks for joining me. I'm going to go through a mastering chain of mine that I used recently on a track called Higher. It's a great vocal house track by Anima Omada. They're a local Melbourne duo producing some great house tracks. I had the pleasure of mixing this track and mastering it, but we're in WaveLab and I'm going to run through the mastering session. So I've got two sections highlighted, one with the vocal, one without the vocal playing. I'll go through the chain. Will A be the pre-master and the master. As I said, I mixed it down. We obviously had it approved by the producers and the label, and we had it in a really good pocket. So the last touch for the master was to simply, I wanted to make it a little warmer, a little brighter, and open up the mid-range a little bit and make it a little bit wider, give it a bit more stereo presence, which I'll go through in a moment. We had a lot of the horns and the vocals in that area, so I wanted to bring that to life. So nonetheless, we'll loop this section here and let's play the pre-master. Let's go. So there you have it. Now, I started this chain. I had the extended mix and the radio edit. They've been mixed down the same. So WaveLab, I've got the luxury of having the master chain on the whole track, and I didn't have to touch the clips individually. Now, I started this off with the Brainworks BX Refinement. It's one of my favorites. I opted to use this instead of Soothe. It's dampening that 3.5K area, and we can solo it to see what it's doing. I've left the saturation and the presence off because I've done a bit of that a bit later on down the chain. We're only minus half a dB. You'll essentially, that's delta, that's what we're affecting. And the range and the speed, I left it open. Obviously you can play with these settings to make it quite snappy and attack the transients. But in this case, I wanted it a bit more static, just to more so affect that area. So I've started with that, which then goes into MSED, which is just to give the side bump almost half a dB there. From there we're going into standard clip. I've used the Pro, Soft Clip Pro setting on to be a bit more aggressive with it. I've given it some saturation at 7%. I've only come down 2.6 dB, but I've driven it up 1 dB to then go in down the line of the chain. You see if I reset it to 0. Into the SPL machine head, I'm going to go loop this section here. No vocal. A touch of drive and a touch of the high frequency adjust, ever so subtle. Q3, very gentle decisions. Spectral at 1K, just helping things calm down a little bit around that section, which is quite busy. 346, touching some of that, and I'm bouncing the high end. I'm purposely, consciously working the mid-range here, so I'm just taking away a little bit before I expand through NB, and then I'm going to touch it again in Satin. Just getting some movement there before we go further down. I've done a video on this before. SPL iron, I'm not compressing with it. I'm running it through there, and I'm using the air bass, which is basically essentially a smiley face EQ, pumping some stereo within there at 20% extra, but I'm dialing back the parallel mix. Let's have a listen to it. done a video on this also in the same one as the SPL, where I'm not using the compressors to compress. In this case, it is compressing a little bit. It's only gain reduction is around the 1 dB mark, and it's pretty much just running through it. You can see I got the attack up at 120, the release quite quick under 80, and I'm soft clipping with it. I've just bumped up a bit at just 0.6 dB because we have it is getting some gain reduction, but I've got the warm on, which is slightly rolling off the highs a little bit. That's to then go into Saturn, where the low high band is off, but I've got the mid-range set up. This is in MS mode, so I'm just I'm processing the side signal here. So I've given it a bump of 0.3 dB. We'll solo this, and the dynamics is in the middle. I didn't want to be too aggressive with it. You can hear here, wrong band. If I exaggerate the dynamics in the drive, mixes at 65, there's a bump in the treble. Adding a bit of width, and we're getting a bit of that tape effect as well. Just give it a bit more texture, a bit more character from the tape effect. We'll go back to this section here, into the black box. But I've used it left, right. I've used it in MS, and stereo width is where it is. The mix is where it is. I've just given it a bump in the triode and 5% saturation, and I've left it on normal. I did say earlier I want to make it a little bit warmer, a little bit brighter. I've given 40 a bump at half a dB, a bump of air 1.5 at 20. Into the inflator. The effect, I didn't use too much of it here. It's sitting at 60. When I'm mastering, I always use inflator in band split mode. I sort of set it to 100 and always adjust the curve from there. In this case, where I got it here was fine, and I normally ride the input a little bit going into the effect and then maybe touching the amp. But in this case, I was happy with where the input was sitting, and it just basically ran through it. And the curve was almost up around halfway, but we're about here. The last EQ move was here. I've done a bit in the mid-range, so before I put it through to limiting, it is spectral EQ at half a dB down, just to sort of bring it back a little bit and control it from what I've done. Because in saturate, I go in at 6 dB in drive. I've used 2 limiters here. Not that I couldn't have done it with one, but elevate, I love it. It's so transparent. But in this case, it's only got half a dB bump, but I've used it more so for the transient emphasis, because I treat it as an EQ before, like my last EQ before it goes into the actual limiter. So in this case here, let's go to the limiter. You'll see I've bumped down half a dB at 102 and almost 4K, but it's the transient emphasis as well. I've done a little bit of clipping to post the limiter before it goes into Pro L. So here you'll hear the percussion, the transients. I'll turn the emphasis off, and what I'll do is I'll go back to this loop here. Keep an ear out for the percussion. Transient emphasis is off. It's only at 26%, so I'll dial it in so you can hear it, and I'll bring it back down. Quite thin and snappy. That's about it. Ceiling's at 0 because I'm going to go into Pro L now. Pro-L's transparent mode, still in 2.2 dB. The final ceiling set at -0.3. I don't use true peak limiting, unless it's quite quick. It's obviously louder in this part. It's actually not that loud integrated. I should have got the specs up, but I don't have them right now handy for the video. I think the integrated in RX was around -7 point something. So yeah, it's not that loud literally, but I always finish off. I use supervision through Wavelab Pro, then RX, but I sort of know where I'm at by this stage with Pro-L. But yeah, in this louder part, you'll see we are loud. There's not much gain reduction happening by the time I get to the final last step in Pro-L. I've done a lot of things prior to that to sort of get it louder without compromising too much audible distortion or anything like that. There is some clipping occurring, but it's happening in very short moments of time with a very small amount of samples, so they're quite inaudible. We're just sort of buying that headroom as we go through. And it's been gentle the whole way through. Like, obviously I did it up front with standard clip, probably the most aggressively throughout the chain, but then there's a little bit of it within the alpha as well. Then we use the saturate, we use the elevate, and then we get into Pro-L. So that is the final result. It's a great track. It's released, it's out. All the information for the track is below, including the label information. I mix and master it. If you enjoyed it, I hope you did. Let me know in the comments what you thought of the chain, what you thought of the track. I'd love to hear it. Until next time, we'll see you next week. Thank you.